And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and some of my thoughts on the latest games releasing. It's me, Andrew, and today we're talking about Call of Duty World War II. This is kind of a big year for Call of Duty. This is the year where instead of taking another step further into the future, and I mean that literally, the series is actually returning to its roots, heading back to the World War II era, back to the boots on the ground combat, which I'm sure you've heard that term thrown around a lot this year. And for many, this step backwards is actually welcomed. With all the flack that Infinite Warfare got, a lot of players really didn't like the direction the series was heading in. With all the different gimmicks like the jetpacks and the wall running and whatnot, which isn't a bad thing because Titanfall does stuff like that and it works fine, but players want a Call of Duty experience from a Call of Duty game. So how did this return to boots on the ground really work out? Overall, pretty good. Call of Duty World War II isn't a drastic overhaul for the series. Control-wise, it feels like a Call of Duty game, which is good because Call of Duty doesn't sell as many copies as it does for its storytelling. There's no denying that the series knows how a first-person shooter should control, and just as always, it feels great. Though this time around there are some new additions. For the first time in I don't know how long, Call of Duty World War II doesn't have regenerating health. You actually need to find and use health packs, and I have to say that I love this idea. It honestly took some getting used to. I'm so used to just running in, guns blazing, knowing that any damage I take won't matter because I'll take cover for a few seconds until my health regenerates. You actually need to think a little bit more now because if you find yourself low on health without decent cover and no med packs, you're screwed. Don't worry though, very rarely will you find yourself without med packs. There is always one lying around and you can actually pick one up from your squad mates too because your squad mates now have unique abilities that help you out in game. One will throw health packs at you, another one will throw ammo, one will spot enemies, outlining them in white, with other squad members possessing similar abilities. They're all on a cooldown that's tied to how many enemies you've killed since last using an ability, and I didn't find myself taking advantage of these too much. Honestly, I kind of forgot that they even existed, but when I was running low on health or ammo and I remembered that my squad mate could hook me up, it was a nice thing to have. They're definitely super helpful, you just have to remember that they're actually there for you to use. One thing that I was really excited about going into this game was the single player campaign. Call of Duty almost always has a really enjoyable single player campaign. That's why I pick them up every year. I know there's a ton of other people that do the same. Infinite Warfare's campaign was actually that game's saving grace. It was one of the only good things about it. The story this time around, really though, it isn't anything special, but it isn't bad either. It's just a Call of Duty campaign, and it being set during World War II doesn't really change that. It's just kind of like a World War II movie greatest hit story. There isn't anything here that you haven't already seen before. You play as Private Daniels, and the game follows him and his squad mates as you see them take part in big moments of World War II, like the D-Day invasion, the liberation of Paris, and the Battle of the Bulge. The characters that you're spending this 6-ish hour long campaign with just don't really hook you emotionally, which is kind of a bummer. Besides Zussman, something happens in the first mission that creates this bond with him, and it's that bond between him and your character that really carries you through the campaign emotionally. But besides those two characters, everyone else here is just kind of boring and totally interchangeable. The story is told mostly through very nice looking cutscenes, and throughout the campaign, you get those big set pieces that Call of Duty is known for. There's a mission where you're actually chasing down a train and you're driving a Jeep alongside it, using this mounted turret to take enemies out that are on top of it. And it all ends with this big giant explosion and a crash, and it honestly reminds me of something right out of an Uncharted game. And those games, as you know, they know how to handle these big giant set pieces, and this is really reminded me of that. It was a lot of fun to play and watch though. The game is actually pretty gory too. Like, you see heads legit explode, there are limbs flying off of bodies, it's pretty gruesome stuff. Overall though, the campaign is definitely enjoyable. The time period is a nice return to form for the series. With how futuristic the past few games have gotten, it's nice to know that Call of Duty can still go back to World War II, strip itself of all those gimmicks, and still be really fun to play. But while there are a lot of us that enjoy a good old Call of Duty campaign, I know most of you skip it and just jump right into the multiplayer. If you've been playing Call of Duty for the past few years, you'll fall right back into the swing of things. Even though there's no double jumps, jetpacks, exosuits, or wall running, it really does feel like a nice return to just straight up gimmick-free Call of Duty multiplayer. It is slightly slower feeling, but still incredibly fast-paced, seeing as it is a Call of Duty game. But besides losing the gimmicks, taking place during World War II, and having us use older weapons, not much has changed. At its core, it's still just Call of Duty multiplayer. But the addition of the new war mode is a game changer for me. It's an objective-based mode where the attacking team is completing objectives like building a bridge or escorting a tank to make it further into the map, while the other team defends. This mode isn't about your kill-to-death ratio, it's about completing these objectives as fast as you can and working as a team while you do it. Honestly, there were times where I thought I was playing a single-player mission. Being set up on a machine gun mowing down the enemy team as they funneled down an underpass felt very cinematic and something straight out of single-player. This is hands down my favorite addition to the multiplayer. I love this mode so much. There's also the new headquarters, which is pretty much the tower from Destiny. You can hang out with other players, hit the shooting range, do some score streak training, and you can even watch other players open loot boxes, which is kind of weird, but it's also kind of exciting when you see someone drop something really cool. And there's even like a mission objective in there somewhere where the game wants you to watch someone open up a loot box and you get rewarded for it. It's 2017 is a very weird year for gaming. Unfortunately though, I really wasn't able to experience much of this because the multiplayer has been giving me some issues on Xbox One. When I spawn into headquarters, there's no one there spawning with me, so I'm all by myself, and any loot box that I do go to open, the game actually eats whatever is dropped, so I haven't gotten anything new. I don't know if this is just an isolated problem for me or if anyone else is experiencing this as well, but it is launch week, so server issues are expected. The little time I did spend with other players at the headquarters, though, it was fine. I really don't see myself really taking part in any of the extra activities going on here. The Divisions class system is another welcome addition to the multiplayer experience. Each class has its preferred weapon and a special ability that goes along with it. The Airborne Division, for example, focuses more on submachine guns, and their special ability is being able to throw a silencer on them. But you aren't locked into just using that weapon type. If you want to run around with a shotgun instead of a silenced submachine gun, you can do that. Even though the shotguns are more suited towards the Expeditionary Division because they have access to incendiary rounds for shotguns. It manages to be pretty simplistic, but it also really gives you the ability to custom tailor your character to your playstyle. With different weapons, attachments, and abilities, you can really play the way you want to play. Then we have the return of Nazi zombies. This time around, it's titled The Final Reich, and just like every other zombie mode, you're tasked with completing objectives while also fighting off wave after wave of zombies. The map this time around is actually really big. My first few times playing, I found myself getting lost and separated from my group, which 9 times out of 10 led to me dying because when you're trapped in a narrow salt mine with a ton of zombies and you're by yourself, that usually leads to you dying. It is a lot of fun to play with friends though, and it's pretty addicting too. It will definitely have you coming back over and over again. And of course, playing it over and over again will lead to more rewards too. These rewards ranging from different passive buffs to custom loadout slots and even customizing the weapons that you pick up in-game. And yes, we have to talk about it. There are loot crates. In the normal multiplayer, they're strictly cosmetic. There's nothing in them to give you an edge over another player. But in zombies, they definitely matter way more. They can drop consumables that can actually make quite a difference in-game. So just be aware that loot boxes are a thing. They do exist. They're here, but I don't think they're going to make or break the overall experience. Overall, this is definitely a Call of Duty game. So if you're a fan of the series, I'd say this is definitely a must-play for you. And if you usually don't play these games and you're looking for an enjoyable, grounded World War II single-player experience, I'd say it's worth considering. I know that personally, War Mode will definitely keep me coming back to this for some time to come. It's such a rush. Trying to rebuild a bridge while your teammates try to keep machine gunners at bay can just really get pretty intense. And coming off of Infinite Warfare, I'm really curious to see how the community takes to the multiplayer this time around, because I know with that game, they really weren't about it. So I'm curious to see how they feel about this. And that's how Before You Buy works. We give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion thrown in. But now we want to hear from you. So let's talk about anything Call of Duty World War II down in the comment section below. I'll be down there talking with you as much as I can. But if you have anything else to add, you can hit me up on Twitter at Andrew Gebbia. Also, I'm pretty sure you already know this, but hitting that like button really helps us out. And subscribing is a good idea because we put out videos like this every single day. And the best way to get them is with a subscription to the channel. Once again, I'm Andrew. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Gameranx.